Once upon a time, there lived a man named Oladayo Adeyemo. Oladayo was a wealthy man who owned a large company, handed down to him from his late father. His father, Chief Adeyemo, had 2 children from different wives. Babatunde was the eldest, but he was born to the second wife. This was because Chief Adeyemo's first wife, Adoni, had a delay of 5 years in conceiving. The family pressured Chief Adeyemo to marry another woman, so he did. A year after Babatunde was born, Adoni conceived and gave birth to Oladayo. Chief Adeyemo loved Adoni dearly, so when he died, he left in his will that 80% of all his properties should go to Oladayo and left Babatunde with just 20%. This decision had always angered Babatunde. Babatunde couldn't understand why his younger brother got the lion's share of their father's legacy. He fumed and brooded over it for years, feeling cheated and overlooked. How could father do this to me? He often muttered to himself. His resentment grew with each passing day, and he began to harbor dark thoughts about his half-brother. Oladayo had a beautiful wife named Janet and a lovely daughter, Ikeoluwa, who was just 12 years old. They were his world, and he loved them dearly. One fateful day, Oladayo traveled to another town for a business meeting. Tragedy struck when he and his driver had a ghastly accident, and both died on the spot. Janet and Ikeoluwa were devastated. "Oh, Oladayo, you should not have left me in this wicked world," Janet cried, her heart broken. The news of Oladayo's death was too much for his mother Adoni, who died from the shock of losing her beloved son. After the funerals were done, Babatunde began to show his true colors. Since Oladayo had not left a will before his death, Babatunde seized the opportunity to take over the company. He ruthlessly chased Janet and Ikeoluwa away from their home, claiming everything for himself. Life became extremely hard for Janet and Ikeoluwa. They had lost their home and their source of income. But Janet was determined to take good care of her daughter. She worked day and night, making sure Ikeoluwa stayed in school and eventually graduated from the university. Though, through all the hardship, Janet's love and strength never wavered, giving Ikeoluwa the hope and courage to keep going. Janet fell seriously ill and needed urgent surgery to save her life. Ikeoluwa was desperate, but she couldn't come up with the large sum of money needed. Despite graduating from the university, she hadn't been able to secure a good job and was only doing menial jobs to get by. With no other option, she decided to run to her uncle, Babatunde, for help. When Ikeoluwa arrived at her uncle's residence, she was met by her uncle's wife, Rhoda, and their daughter, Rosemary. "Please, Auntie Rhoda, I need your help. My mother is very sick and needs surgery," Ikeoluwa pleaded, her eyes filled with tears. But Rhoda and Rosemary showed no sympathy. "Get out of here, Ikeoluwa. We don't have any money for you," Rhoda snapped, and Rosemary added, "You shouldn't have come here. Go away." Heartbroken and with nowhere else to turn to, Ikeoluwa went back to the hospital. She gave the little money she had to doctors to stabilize her mother. "Please, just keep her stable until I can find a way out to get the money for the surgery," she begged. The doctors did what they could, but time was running out, and Ikeoluwa knew she had to act fast to save her mother's life. When the doctor called Ikeoluwa again, his voice was urgent. "Your mother had another attack. You must come up with the money for the surgery immediately. She can't survive another attack," he said. Confused and scared, Ikeoluwa felt desperate. She picked up her phone and called her uncle. "Uncle, please, help me. My mother is dying," she cried. But Babatunde's response was harsh and cold. "I don't have money for you and your mother. She can die for all I care. After all, what use are you and your useless mother to me?" He banged the call, leaving Ikeoluwa in tears, not knowing who to turn to. 10 minutes later, Her phone rang. Again, it was her uncle. "Come see me at my office now," he said. Ikeolua hurried there. When she arrived, she saw Babatunde with his daughter Rosemary. Rosemary looked at her with disgust. "Can't you and your useless mother just leave us alone?" she sneered. Ikeolua didn't bother replying. She just looked at her uncle, her eyes pleading for help as she tried to keep her tears from falling. Her uncle looked at her with a serious expression. "I will give you the money for your mother's surgery," he said slowly, "but on one condition. You must marry Desmond." Ikeolua's heart sank. She had heard about Desmond. He was Rosemary's boyfriend, very rich, wealthy, and handsome, until he had a car accident that left him crippled. His spinal cord was damaged and he lost everything, becoming a nobody. Before the accident, Desmond was engaged to Rosemary, and there was a contract between their families. If he helped Babatunde's family by investing in their company, he was promised a bride from the Adeyemo's family. But now that he was crippled and poor, Rosemary refused to marry him. "So you see," Babatunde continued, "Rosemary cannot marry him, and we could get sued and lose half of our company if we don't fulfill our part of the contract. That is why you have to marry Desmond." Ikeolua was stunned. "Marry Desmond? But I don't even know him, and he's crippled," she stammered. "Exactly," Rosemary sneered. "That is why he is perfect for you. You two can be miserable together." Ikeolua felt a mix of anger and despair. Her mother's life was hanging by a thread, and now she was being forced into a marriage she didn't want. She looked at her uncle, hoping for some sign of mercy, but his eyes were cold and unyielding. "If you want the money, you will marry Desmond. Take it or leave it," Babatunde said firmly. Ikeolua's mind raced. She had no choice. For her mother's sake, she had to agree. She took a deep breath, trying to steady her trembling voice. "Fine, I will do it. I will marry Desmond." Babatunde nodded, satisfied. "Good. The wedding is tomorrow at 10 a.m. "Okay," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. "But please, let me have the money to deposit for my mother's surgery first." Rosemary laughed, a cold, mocking sound. "So you can run away, right?" Ikeolua's eyes filled with tears. "I swear, I won't run. I just want to save my mother," she pleaded. But Babatunde shook his head. "No, you will get the money after the wedding." Defeated, Ikeolua had no choice but to return to the hospital. She sat by her mother's bedside, holding her hand tightly. "Hang in there, Mom. I have arranged everything. The money will be paid tomorrow," she whispered, tears streaming down her face. Ikeolua stayed with her mother throughout the night, her heart heavy with worry and fear. She didn't sleep a wink, knowing that tomorrow would change her life forever. She told the doctor that she had secured the money and it would be paid the next day. As the first light of the dawn broke through the hospital window, Ikeolua took a deep breath, preparing herself for the day ahead. She was about to make the biggest sacrifice of her life, and all she could hope for was that it would be enough to save her mother. At Desmond's place, his PA, Augustine, entered the dimly lit room. "Sir, you need to get ready for your wedding. It's at 10 a.m., he said gently. Desmond looked a mess. His hair was bushy and unkempt. His clothes were old and dirty. He sighed deeply and asked, "Has Rosemary agreed to marry me in this state?" Augustine shook his head. "No, sir. It's not Rosemary. Her cousin Ikeolua will be your bride." Desmond's heart sank. He nodded, feeling a wave of regret wash over him. "I can't believe this is happening," he murmured. "At one time, I was everything to Rosemary. She was the one who suggested the contract when her family needed my help to invest in their company. Now, they are backing out of the agreement because I am no longer the man I used to be. She no longer calls me or pick my calls when I call. That means she was only after my money. She never really loved me. He remembered the days when he was rich and powerful, and Rosemary was by his side, showering him with love and attention. But the accident had changed everything. He lost his wealth, his status, and now even Rosemary. The contract was clear. If they backed out, they would lose half of their company to him. But it didn't specify which Adeyemo he would marry, so they quickly threw Ikeoluwa under the bus. They are using Ikeoluwa to save themselves. How can they be so heartless? Augustine placed a hand on his shoulder. Sir, I know this is hard, but you must get ready. Desmond took a deep breath. Trying to gather his strength, he felt a mix of sadness and anger. I never wanted this for Ikeoluwa. She doesn't deserve to be dragged into this mess. As he prepared himself for the wedding, Desmond couldn't help but feel a deep sense of sorrow. He was about to marry him, a woman he barely knew, all because of a cruel twist of fate. But he had no other choice. For now, all he could do was hope that somehow things would get better. Desmond's PA, Augustine, suggested he change, shave, and wear some decent clothes for the wedding, but Desmond shook his head firmly. No, let them all see me this way, he said. I want everyone to continue believing that I am poor. I need to find the person who tried to kill me, and I can only do that by pretending to be a nobody. Ignoring Augustine's plea, Desmond left for the courthouse, looking unkempt. When he arrived, he saw Rosemary and her parents already waiting. Rosemary's eyes widened in shock and disgust when she saw him. Desmond wheeled his wheelchair towards Rosemary. She moved back, covering her nose with her hand. Don't come close to me, you stinking pig, she shouted. Everyone turned to look, their eyes filled with judgment and curiosity. Desmond stood his ground, unmoved by Rosemary's harsh words. He looked at her with a mix of sadness and determination. This is the real me now, not the man you once knew, he said quietly. Rosemary's father, Babatunde, stepped forward, his face twisted with anger. Desmond, you are here to marry Ikeoluwa, not to create a scene, he snapped. Desmond glanced at Babatunde. I know why I am here, he replied, his voice steady. But know this, you will pay for this. Desmond's heart ached, but he remained unshaken. He needed to keep up with this to uncover the truth behind his accident, and if enduring Rosemary's cruelty was the price he had to pay, then so be it. He took a deep breath, ready to face whatever came next. Desmond moved to where Ikeoluwa was standing. Unlike Rosemary, Ikeoluwa didn't try to run away or cover her nose. She stood there, her eyes filled with a quiet determination. Desmond felt a surge of pity for her, knowing she was being forced into this. The judge arrived and began the ceremony. The whole process felt real to Desmond. In a matter of minutes, it was over. They were married, bound together by circumstances beyond their control. As they exchanged vows, Desmond glanced at Ikeoluwa. She looked calm, but he could see the sadness in her eyes. He wished he could say something to comfort her, but the words wouldn't come. Instead, he silently vowed to himself that he would protect her as best as he could. The judge declared them husband and wife, and the small gathering of witnesses clapped politely. Rosemary and her parents watched with cold, calculating eyes while Ikeoluwa stood by Desmond's side, her hand trembling slightly in his. Desmond squeezed her hand gently, offering her the only comfort he could at that moment. They were in this together now, and he hoped that somehow they could find a way through the darkness that surrounded them. After the ceremony, Rosemary walked over with a mocking smile. You two deserve each other. Wretched people, happy married life, she sneered. Ikeoluwa did not bother replying her. She turned to Desmond, her eyes pleading. I need to rush to the hospital to check on my mom." Desmond nodded. "I will go with you." She quickly moved to her uncle to ask him for the money he had promised her, and he told her to go to the hospital and she would get the alert before she gets to the hospital. They quickly stopped a taxi and made their way to the hospital. When they arrived, the doctors' faces were grave and they seemed hesitant to speak. Finally, the doctor took a deep breath and broke the news. "I am sorry, but your mother passed away around 8 a.m. this morning. We tried reaching you, but your phone was not reachable. We even called your uncle and broke the news to him, but he hung up on us." Ikeoluwa felt her world crumbling. She screamed, collapsing to the floor in anguish. Desmond tried consoling her, but his heart ached seeing her in pain. All her sacrifices, all her efforts, and yet she couldn't save her mother. As Ikeoluwa cried, Desmond's pity turned to anger. He realized that Babatunde had known about Janet's death even before the wedding. The man had no intention of paying for the surgery. If he had paid on time, Janet might still be alive. Desmond clenched his fist, vowing silently, "They will pay for this," he thought, determined to bring justice to Ikeoluwa and make Babatunde answer for his cruelty. After making all the necessary preparations, Ikeoluwa deposited her mother's remains in the morgue. With a heavy heart, she followed Desmond to his humble home, a simple one-room apartment. Despite her grief, she cooked for them. They ate in silence and then went to bed. Desmond lay awake, feeling deeply sorry for her. He wanted to tell her the truth about his past, but he wasn't sure if he could fully trust her yet. When he woke up in the morning, Ikeoluwa was not in bed. He found her outside, already preparing breakfast. He looked up and smiled softly as he wheeled his chair over to her. "Good morning," Desmond greeted. "Good morning," Ikeoluwa replied, serving breakfast. They ate quietly. The morning was filled with a mix of hope and uncertainty. After a while, Desmond broke the silence. "Ikeoluwa, I know you were tricked into this marriage. We can get a divorce so you won't be stuck with me." Ikeoluwa's eyes flashed with anger. "Are you not a human being? Is our marriage a joke to you? Please, don't say that again. We are one now, and I will learn to love you. We will make this work." Desmond was taken aback by her fierce determination. He saw the fire in her eyes, the strength that had kept her going through all her hardships. Her words struck him deeply, and for the first time, he felt a glimmer of hope that maybe, just maybe, they could find a way to make this unexpected union work. Desmond reached out and gently took her hand. "Thank you, Ikeoluwa. I promise I will do my best to be a good husband to you." Ikeoluwa nodded, her anger fading into a look of resolve. "And I promise to stand by you no matter what." At that moment, amidst the simplicity of their surroundings and the complexity of their situation, they found a shared determination to face the future together. After breakfast, Ikeoluwa helped Desmond shave his hair, bathe, and put on a clean clothes. He looked much better, almost like his old self. Ikeoluwa then dressed up and told him she was going to see her uncle to ask for help with the burial expenses and her mother's outstanding hospital bills, since the hospital won't release the body unless they pay up the debt. Desmond insisted on going with her. "You don't have to," she said. "My uncle's family might treat you badly, and I won't like that." But Desmond was determined. "No, I am coming with you." They left for her uncle's house. When they arrived, her uncle was dismissive and cold. "Our agreement was to help with the surgery, not the burial," he said flatly. Desmond's anger flared. "Why are you so wicked? You never intended to help with the surgery. You tricked her into this marriage, knowing she did it for her mother. The hospital called you before the wedding, and you never told her that her mom had died. How can you be so cruel?" Rosemary's mother screamed back, "Do your worst. Take your poor selves out of our house." She called for security to throw them out. As the guards approached, Desmond clenched his fist, his eyes blazing with fury. Ikeolua stood by his side, her face pale but determined. The security guards grabbed them, but Desmond shouted, "You think you can treat people this way and get away with it? We will fight back." Ikeolua, with tears streaming down her face, looked at her uncle one last time. "You may have power now, but justice will find you. I will not let my mother's death be in vain." Thrown out onto the street, Desmond held Ikeolua as she cried. He whispered, "We will find a way, Ikeolua. Together, we will make them pay for their cruelty." They went home, and Ikeolua was trying to figure out how to get money to take care of everything. Desmond looked at her, feeling deep pity for her. He excused himself and went out, discreetly calling his PA to take care of all the expenses. The next day, Ikeolua received a call from the hospital. "An anonymous person has paid for everything. You can come over to finalize the arrangements." She was overjoyed. "Are you sure?" she asked, her voice trembling with relief. "Yes, everything has been taken care of," the caller confirmed. Ikeolua ran inside, tears of happiness streaming down her face. "Desmond, someone paid for everything." Desmond smiled, his heart warming at her joy. "That's wonderful news, Ikeolua." She hugged him tightly. "I can't believe him. I don't know who to thank, but this is a miracle." Desmond hugged her back, his eyes shining with emotion. "I am just glad you are happy." Desmond felt a sense of fulfillment, knowing he could ease her pain, even if she didn't know. For now, that was enough. After the funeral, Ikeolua focused on finding a better job while also taking care of Desmond. However, what no one knew was that Desmond was actually much better and could even stand on his own. He hid this even from Ikeolua because he wasn't sure if he could fully trust her yet. Day by day, Desmond found himself falling in love with Ikeolua. She was perfect for him, beautiful, intelligent, and compassionate. Ikeolua too was beginning to fall for Desmond. One evening, Ikeolua turned to Desmond. "You know, despite everything, I am grateful to have you." Desmond's heart swelled with emotion. "You have been the one taking care of me, Ikeolua. You are the one with the kind heart. I am so lucky." As they continued their days together, their bond grew stronger. Desmond knew that soon he would reveal his secret to Ikeolua. But for now, he cherished every moment, knowing that their love was growing stronger each day. One day, Desmond and Ikeolua strolled to a nearby shop, chatting and laughing as she pushed him in his wheelchair. As they approached the shop, a car pulled up beside them. The window rolled down, and a man inside began to flirt with Ikeolua. Desmond's face turned red with anger and jealousy. Ikeolua politely told the man it wouldn't work, introducing Desmond as her husband. The man laughed mockingly. "A fine girl like you with a cripple? You should leave him. I will take care of you." Ikeolua's expression hardened. "I love my husband," she said firmly, pushing the man's hand away when he tried to grab her. Desmond felt a swell of pride for her unwavering loyalty. When they got home, Desmond asked her to sit on his lap. "I am so proud of you, Ikeolua. Despite everything, you love me for who I am." She smiled, touched by Desmond's words. Desmond kissed her, and one thing led to another. For the first time, they consummated their marriage. The next morning, Ikeolua woke up shocked. She gently shook Desmond awake. "What happened? How did you do it? Are your legs back?" Desmond blinked, pretending to be confused. I don't know. Maybe my legs are healing." Ikeolua's eyes filled with hope and excitement. "We will start exercises to help them heal faster." "I am so happy." From that day on, she put him through a series of exercises. Desmond played along, grateful for her dedication and love. Little by little, he started ditching the wheelchair and using crutches.
One evening, Ikeolua helped Desmond stand without his crutches for the first time. Tears of joy streamed down her face. "You are doing it, Desmond. You are really doing it." Desmond's heart swelled with emotion. He pulled her close, hugging her tightly. "It's all because of you, Ikeolua. Your love is my strength." Desmond's progress became a beacon of hope Ikeolua needed, and their humble home was filled with warmth of their shared victory and support. One day, Desmond received a call from Augustine. Fortunately, Ikeolua was not around. Desmond answered the call, and Augustine's voice came through, tense and urgent. "Desmond, we have finally found the person who tried to kill you," Augustine said. Desmond's heart raced. Who? Who hated me that badly?" Augustine hesitated. "You need to brace yourself for this. You won't believe it." "It's your dad." Desmond felt his words spin. "What do you mean, my dad?" "Yes," Augustine confirmed. "He drugged you, which is why you felt drowsy while driving. The doctor called me and informed me that drugs were found in your system and that they were traced back to the last meal you had. I remembered you told me you felt drowsy while driving after leaving your dad's house and that you mentioned having coffee with your dad." Desmond started sweating, his mind racing with disbelief and anger. He had always thought it was Joe, his best friend, who had betrayed him. Recently, Desmond discovered that Joe had been dating Rosemary even when Desmond was with her. She had loved Joe all along but stayed with Desmond for his money. Desmond was stunned by Augustine's revelation. "My father, but why?" Augustine's voice was heavy with gravity. "Desmond, it's all connected. Your father's resentment runs deep. When your grandfather passed away, he left all his properties and businesses to you. Your father, with his gambling and womanizing, was deemed irresponsible. The old man wanted his legacy to be preserved, not squandered." Desmond's heart pounded. He remembered his grandfather's stern warnings. "But my father always pretended to be okay with it. He never showed any interest in the company, never cared about the business." Augustine nodded. "Exactly. He played along, pretending to accept the inheritance while harboring deep anger. His public indifference was a mask for his resentment. After your accident, he seized the opportunity to take control, thinking he'd finally get what he deserved." Desmond's face hardened. "No wonder. He never cared about my recovery. He was more interested in consolidating his power." Desmond sighed. But what his father doesn't know was that he took control of the lesser fraction of the whole properties. Before Desmond's father passed away, he put the larger part of the properties under an anonymous company name. Desmond's father never knew about this because he had never shown any interest in running his father's company. Desmond had always wondered why his grandfather did that and had been warned never to let his dad know about it. Now, as the truth unfolded, he could see the reason clearly. Desmond's hand clenched into his fist. He stood up, determination burning in his eyes. The truth about his father's action was a heavy blow, but it also ignited a fierce resolve. He needed to protect what was rightfully his and ensure his father's greed did not go unpunished. Augustine's voice trembled with urgency as he delivered the shocking news. "Desmond, there's something else. We have discovered who was behind the fatal accident that killed Ikeoluwa's father. It was Babatunde. He paid the mechanic to sabotage Oladayo's car brakes." Desmond's face turned pale with fury. The betrayer hit him harder than he had imagined. His heart pounded in his chest as he absorbed the weight of the revelation. The man who had taken everything from Ikeoluwa was responsible for her father's death. "I need to address this." Augustine nodded. "I will arrange a meeting with all the partners. It's time to let them know who the true CEO of the anonymous company is." Desmond thanked Augustine and turned his attention to another crucial task. He had to come clean with Ikeoluwa. When she arrived home that evening, she found him waiting anxiously. Desmond took a deep breath, his voice laced with apprehension. Ikeoluwa, there is something important I need to tell you. Please, don't be angry. I should have told you this much earlier. Ikeoluwa's eyes narrowed, sensing the gravity in his tone. Desmond continued, I am not really who you think I am. The truth is, I am the real CEO of the anonymous company that has been investing in almost all the major companies in this city. I paid for your mother's hospital bills. I am not crippled anymore. My legs are fine. I have been hiding the truth because I wasn't sure if I could trust you. The confession hung heavy in the air. Ikeoluwa's eyes widened with shock and anger. You knew all this time. You couldn't trust me enough to tell me the truth. All this while, you have been lying to me. Her words cut through him like a knife. Desmond reached out, his voice filled with desperation. Please, Ikeoluwa, let me explain. I have kept the truth from you because I feared you wouldn't believe me, or worse, that you would leave. I am so sorry for not being honest from the start. Ikeoluwa stormed out, her emotions boiling over. Desmond chased her, his heart pounding with fear and regret. He caught up with her outside their home. Ikeoluwa, please, listen to me, he pleaded. I did all of this to protect you, to make sure you were safe. I didn't mean to hurt you. She looked at him, tears streaming down her face. You should have trusted me. Desmond nodded, his own tears mingling with hers. I know I have made terrible mistakes, but I swear I will do anything I can to make it right. I owe you that much. Ikeoluwa's anger was palpable, and so was her pain. She was caught between her love for Desmond and the betrayal she felt. Desmond then revealed the final piece of the puzzle. There is more. Babatunde was the one who orchestrated the accident that killed your father. The revelation struck Ikeoluwa with a new wave of grief. Her anger shifted to sorrow and betrayal, and she collapsed into Desmond's arm. The weight of the truth and the loss was almost too much to bear. Desmond held her close, his heart breaking for her. He knew that regaining her trust would be a long and painful journey, but he was determined to try as they clung to each other, and the truth hung heavily between them. The next day, the partners gathered at the grand venue, ready to meet the anonymous CEO, who held the majority shares in their companies. Among those that attended were Desmond's father, Babatunde, his wife and his daughter Rosemary. Augustine, Desmond's trusted PA, arrived to pick Desmond and Ikeoluwa. They were dressed elegantly, looking completely different from their usual modest selves. As they arrived at the venue, the anticipation was palpable. Whispers and murmurs filled the air as everyone wondered about the identity of this mysterious CEO. When Desmond stepped out, audible murmurs echoed through the hall. No one could believe their eyes. Desmond held Ikeoluwa's hand as they walked in, their presence commanding attention. Augustine rose and introduced Desmond as the anonymous CEO and the majority shareholder of their companies. The shock in the room was palpable as all eyes turned to Desmond, who stood tall and confident, his voice unwavering. Good afternoon, everyone, Desmond began, his tone resonating with authority. I stand before you today not just as Desmond, but as the anonymous CEO and the majority shareholder that has been investing in your companies. He paused, scanning the faces of those who had doubted him. I know you are all surprised to see me here, not looking wretched or confined to a wheelchair. The truth is, I never lost anything, and yes, I was paralyzed for a while, but it wasn't as bad as you all thought. I kept up the act to reveal my true friends and my enemies. The room fell silent, stunned by the revelation. Desmond's father's face turned pale. Babatunde looked nervous, and Rosemary's eyes widened in shock. Desmond continued, I have called this meeting to address some matters of betrayal and deceit. Many of you here have taken advantage of my absence,
and my supposed vulnerability. He turned his gaze towards Joe and Rosemary. Joe, my so-called best friend, and Rosemary, my fiancée. I know about your relationship, and I know it has been going on for years, even while we're together. Rosemary tried to protest, her voice trembling. Desmond, that's not true. I have always had eyes only for you, and I still love you. Desmond raised his hand to silence her. Stop lying, Rosemary. The truth is out. Joe, the company you have been managing, the job I got for you, is actually mine. You have been relieved of your duties, effective immediately. Joe's face flushed with panic as he stammered. Desmond, you don't understand. I didn't mean to betray you. Desmond ignored his pleas and turned to Babatunde and his wife. Babatunde, your wickedness knows no bound. You killed Ikeoluwa's father by tampering with his car brakes. You also refused to help her mother, tricking her into a marriage. Your greed and evil have caused her so much pain. Babatunde and his wife began to shake, their fear evident. Desmond signaled to the police officers who were waiting outside. They entered the room, ready to arrest Babatunde and his wife. And also, the real owner of the company you have been trying to take over is Ikeoluwa. Everything is going back to her now, Desmond declared. The police moved swiftly, cuffing Babatunde and his wife. Babatunde tried to resist, but it was futile. Desmond watched as they were taken away, their reign of terror finally coming to an end. Finally, Desmond turned to his father. And you, father, I never thought a father could be so wicked as to want to kill his own son for material things. Grandpa and my late mother would be ashamed of you. Desmond's voice trembled with a mix of disbelief and anger. You wanted to take everything from me, but what you didn't know was that Grandpa had set up a series of properties and assets under an anonymous company name, which I now control. His father's face twisted, a storm of emotion swelling in his eyes. Fear, anger, desperation. Desmond, you don't understand, he hissed. I did what I had to do. My father caused this. Why would he will everything to you when I am still alive? You are not even his blood. Desmond's heart pounded. What are you saying? His father's voice lowered, bitter and broken. Your mother had you for another man. After 10 years of marriage, I couldn't get her pregnant because I had a low sperm count. She wanted to leave me, but I loved her too much. I begged her to stay, even told her she could have a child with another man and I would raise him as my own. But I just couldn't bring myself to love you. I drowned my sorrows in alcohol and other women. My father knew all this, yet he still willed everything to you. Desmond felt the ground shift beneath him. Then, who is my father? I don't know, his father admitted. She told me she just had a one-night stand with a stranger, and that's it. Desmond didn't know when tears began rolling down his cheeks, the weight of this revelation crushing him. Ikeoluwa, standing by his side, gently placed a hand on his shoulder, trying to offer comfort in the face of his shattered world. Meanwhile, the police moved towards Desmond's father, who was still reeling from his confession. They swiftly handcuffed him and led him away, his protests and pleas echoing through the room. But Desmond barely heard him. His mind was drowning in the truth he had just uncovered, and all he could feel was cold emptiness of betrayal. The room fell silent as Desmond's father was taken away by the police. Gathering his courage, Desmond turned to the assembled partners and investors. I am the anonymous CEO, and this is my wife, Ikeoluwa, he declared with newfound resolve. Together, we will lead this company to new heights. After the meeting, as they walked out, Rosemary ran to Desmond, pleading desperately. Desmond, please take me back. Leave Ikeoluwa. It is me, your Rosemary. We can be together again. Desmond's face hardened.
You had your chance, Rosemary. My love and loyalty are with Ikeoluwa now. He held Ikeoluwa and they walked away. Life took a drastic turn for Rosemary and Joe. Stripped of their wealth and influence, they had to move to a run-down apartment in the slums. Their new reality was harsh and unforgiving. The constant financial strain led to endless arguments. Joe, once the picture of charm, became bitter and resentful, blaming Rosemary for their downfall. How could you be so stupid, Rosemary? We had everything. And now, look at us, Joe yelled one night. Rosemary, with tears streaming down her face, retorted, "It's not my fault, Joe. We both made mistakes." Their once glamorous life was now filled with shouting matches and regrets. The love they once faked for each other was replaced by real animosity. Meanwhile, Desmond and Ikeoluwa's love continued to blossom. They built a happy family filled with trust and compassion. With all their enemies locked away, they were free to live their lives without fear or deceit. Desmond and Ikeoluwa lived happily ever after. Story has taught us that true trust is hard to come by, and betrayal by those closest to us can be the most painful. Desmond's story teaches us to be cautious and value the trust we place in others.
If you have enjoyed our story, please consider liking and subscribing to our YouTube channel. Don't forget to click on the notification bell so you will never miss out on more captivating stories like this one. Thank you for watching.